My House of Horrors Chapter 101 to 110. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Chapter 101. Muyong High School's Hidden Mission. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. The sound coming from the laptop was not loud, but everyone could hear him clearly. Everyone turned to look at Fei Yuliang, who was collapsed on the floor with foam on his lips, and their expressions were mixed. The middle-aged man sensed the crowd opinion shifting, so he quickly fast-forwarded. 1 or 2 minutes later, an image finally appeared on screen. Zhu Jianing and Fei Yuliang had officially entered the haunted house. The visitors outside were curious about the interior design, some even pushed forward, attempting to see the hidden traps and layout. The Muyong High School scenario was built underground, so it was very quiet. The recorder picked up the pair's conversation clearly, including how they discussed posting the guide online and hiring a 50-cent army to swamp the haunted house with bad reviews. So, these people are here to purposely create trouble. We almost believed them earlier. The crowd started to mumble, and the middle-aged man had no choice but to fast-forward some more. Due to the lack of lighting, the images were not clear. All they could see was a dim corridor and empty classrooms on both sides, but that was already scary enough. The people from Qin Guang's studio did not shoot this video to help Chen Ge promote his haunted house. They were looking for evidence of Chen Ge ordering his employees to assault his visitors, but after 6 minutes of footage, all they could see was Fei Yuliang and Zhu Jianing being scared on camera. There was not even the shadow of a worker. The people from Qin Guang's studio started to get worried, but the visitors were increasingly curious. Such a large haunted house, but they did not have even one employee playing the ghost. Then, how did they plan to scare their visitors? Very soon, the video reached the point where the two were playing the pen spirit game. When Chen Ge heard the familiar question asked by Fei Yuliang, he almost bit his tongue. He finally understood what the pair did that angered the pen spirit so. The video after that was even weirder. Zhu Jianing suddenly dropped his hand and escaped from the room while Fei Yuliang started writing madly on the white paper. You will die, you will die, you will die. Looking at the words that appeared on the paper, the surrounding visitors were confused. What is he doing? Ads by PubFuture. Mental breakdown. There's no need to trouble the park's doctor, we should call the mental hospital directly. In other words, 2 of them entered the haunted house, and one of them was scared dumb by his friend. Watching this video, Chen Ge sighed greatly in relief. Other than 2 victims, only he knew what really happened. The pen spirit must have appeared then, but it was unknown whether it could not be captured on camera or the camera angle was wrong. Regardless, the pen spirit did not show on the video. However, what was recorded was this eerie situation. The video continued to play, and Chen Ge leaned in closer. He was most interested in what happened next. After Zhu Jianing escaped, Fei Yuliang was left alone in the room. The man who was scrawling madly on the paper suddenly stopped. The camera was pinned to his chest, and the video stood still for several seconds. Then the image tipped backwards. Fei Yuliang seemed to have fainted. No one touched him, right? Yeah, so why did he faint? 10 seconds later, something even weirder happened. The camera angle suddenly moved. Fei Yuliang was standing up again. He walked unevenly out of the bedroom. The camera was shaking violently. It felt like the man had forgotten how to walk as he tipped left and right. A fainted person who suddenly stood up and walked on his own. That had never happened before in Chen Ge's years of experience dealing with fainted visitors. This man had probably been taken over by the pen spirit. Chen Ge did not say anything, but his eyes narrowed. Fei Yuliang soon familiarized himself with his body. A few seconds later, he picked up his speed, and his gait was no different from a normal person's. When he reached the junction, Chen Ge and Zhu Jianing had just entered the toilet. They had brushed past each other just like that. The pen spirit was trying to escape the haunted house. Chen Ge was spooked by the thought. If not for the incident that happened after this, the pen spirit might have successfully escaped. In the video, Fei Yuliang seemed to realize that there were people inside the toilet, so he snuck past the toilet before running toward the sealed classroom. His target was clear. He walked toward the last row and hugged one of the uniforms to his chest. When he was about to leave, he saw the paper box with the 24 name tags Chen Ge left on the lectern. As if remembering something horrible, Fei Yuliang deposited the tags on the table hurriedly. After pulling one out and placing it in his pocket, he ran toward the exit. However, before that could happen, the broken door of the classroom closed on its own. Then, The weirdest part of the video occurred. Fei Yuliang turned around to yell at the empty classroom. I also treat this classroom as our home, but I have my reason to leave. I have to explain this to Wang Xin. Please let me go. I promise to come back after I'm done. Ads by PubFuture. Get away from me. I have to leave today. No one is going to stop me. Fei Yuliang maddened screams came from the computer. He yelled angrily at the empty classroom. Let me go. Let me go. The camera kept shaking before falling to the ground like it had been knocked off in a struggle. From that angle, the camera perfectly focused on Fei Yuliang's expression, which was changing madly like there were more than 10 different personalities inside his body at the same time. Several seconds later, the expression on Fei Yuliang's face returned to normal, and the classroom door opened. Without a word, he picked up the camera and replaced it on his chest. Then, like a puppet, he walked toward the deepest part of the Muyang High School scenario. At that time, Chen Ge's black phone vibrated. He pulled his phone out silently before taking several steps back, but he kept his gaze on the laptop. While all this had been happening, he had been inside the corner toilet. There was only a wall between them, but he had not heard any commotion from the classroom next door. It felt like, after the classroom door was closed, the space within shifted to another dimension. The video continued to play. Fei Yuliang, who was moving in an awkward way, took deliberate steps toward the well. He stepped on the edge of the well and started to talk to himself. Are we going to jump? I can understand Chen Yalin's pain, she has her own reason. If I were in her position, I believe I would do the same thing. After all, Wang Xin was her best friend. Then, shall we give her another chance? Fei Yuliang stepped back down from the well. His expression slowly returned to a blank face, and with a tilt of his head, he collapsed to the floor. Around 4 minutes later, Chen Ge arrived. The camera had recorded everything. The first thing Chen Ge did was perform first aid, and everyone watching the video could bear witness to that. The boss didn't do anything wrong. If anything, he was trying to save your friend. We almost blamed an innocent person. The people from Qin Guang's studio were made speechless. By that time, Chen Ge had retreated to the outer ring of the crowd, and he glanced at the black phone. Dear Spectres favored, congratulations on triggering the hidden mission at 2-star scenario, Muyang High School, the Pen Spirit's Wish. Visit and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 102. Reward, Hiring the Pen Spirit. Translator, Lonely Tree Editor, Milman 97. Mission requirement, find the Pen Spirit's best friend and fulfill its wish. Mission reward, the Pen Spirit's affection level will increase tremendously, and you will have a chance to recruit it as the haunted house's employee. Chen Ge's eyes studied the last sentence closely. Hiring an actual ghost to be his worker was his dream, and he had not expected that the day would arrive so soon. When he first received the black phone, he had been paying extra attention to the My Team of Ghouls and Ghosts tab, but after completing so many missions, the tab had remained empty. Both Xiaoxiao and Zhongya could not be hired due to specific reasons. Chen Ge had already given up on that thought. After all, human and ghosts were different. However, it was not as good as he had hoped, since the black phone had now issued this mission. The perks of employing the Pen Spirit were endless. She could predict the future and could scare the visitors without the use of makeup. In Chen Ge's eyes, she was the perfect employee. I shall help the Pen Spirit fulfill her wish. After slipping the black phone back into his pocket, Chen Ge squeezed through the crowd. The few from Qin Guang's studio were packing up the equipment and laptop. They looked like they were ready to leave. Who said you people can go? Chen Ge walked toward Fei Yuliang and pulled out the name tag from his pocket. The dirtied name tag had a woman's name written on it, Chen Yalin. Why would you steal a prop from the haunted house? Chen Ge waved the name tag in the air. Don't tell me, this old name tag belongs to Fei Yuliang. The people from Qin Guang's studio looked at each other. They did not know what had possessed Fei Yuliang to go to the classroom to steal this name tag either. Xiao Chen, let me handle this. Uncle Shu was afraid of conflict, so he quickly came out to block Chen Ge. Ads by PubFuture. First things first, I need them to delete all the videos from their laptop, or else they are not leaving this place. Every set inside the haunted house took painstaking effort to build, and I will not allow my effort to go to waste just like that. Uncle Shu also understood the damage that the haunted house would suffer if the video was released to the public. He kept a close eye on the people from Qin Guang's studio as they deleted the video from the laptop, then he led them to the park management. These people's behavior had created a negative influence on the park, and they would be punished according to the park rules. After the few were led away, Chen Ge pushed them out of his mind. In a way, he pitied them from accidentally angering the pen spirit. After they left, Shu Wan walked out from the haunted house. Boss, are we still going to continue for the rest of the day? Of course. Chen Ge returned to the ticket booth, and the originally orderly crowd suddenly swamped him. Brother, how come there is no mention of the school scenario on the public forum? It looks FC King interesting. Is the ticket to visit the school the same price? Can we go in 4 at a time in Terabang? I haven't been so excited and scared at the same time. Someone hold me. Chen Ge did not expect that the crowd's reaction to the new scenario would be so positive after witnessing what had happened to Fei Yuliang and Zhu Jianing. He glanced at the crowd and realized that most of them were students. I'm sorry, but due to some accidents, the scenario is temporarily closed for a 2-day maintenance period. Fei Yuliang and Zhu Jianing were the beta testers. From their experience, Chen Ge realized that even without his intervention, the scenario was independent enough to scare the visitors on its own, but there were still too many uncertainties and, thus, a certain risk. It was the same with the murder by midnight scenario initially. The mischievous Xiao Xiao followed behind Monkey and gave the man the scare of his life. It was only after Chen Ge solved the hidden mission in the murder by midnight scenario that the situation improved. To have the lingering spirits inside Muyang High School listen to me, the simplest solution is to complete the scenario's hidden mission. Chen Ge stuck his hand into his pocket, and with his fingers curled around the black phone, he came to a decision. The haunted house continued to operate, the incident with Qin Guang's studio's people an interlude that was soon forgotten. Chen Ge was busy until 4 p.m., when the number of park visitors decreased. Chen Ge called Shu Wan over and had her get off work early. After Shu Wan left, he entered the Muyang High School scenario alone. This was the first 2-star scenario unlocked by Chen Ge. Its scenario was placed at the stairs that led down into the underground car park. In the future, no matter how Chen Ge expanded the underground car park, the entrance would not be changed, so the first scary scenario his visitors saw would be this one. He turned on his flashlight and headed toward the sealed classroom. The toppled chairs, tables, and the name tags on the lectern had been replaced, but one of the name tags was missing. Ads by PubFuture. Can you hear me? Chen Ge stood at the door and shouted into the room. The uniforms sat on their chairs, and there was no answer. After shaking his head, Chen Ge went to the female dormitory. He picked up the broken ballpoint pen and fixed it before putting it inside his pocket. After that, he wandered to the well at the other end of the junction. In the video, Fei Yuliang had been talking to himself beside this well. At the time, he should have been possessed by several lingering spirits at the same time, and that was why he was rambling what sounded like nonsense. Chen Ge looked down into the well. It was 2 or 3 meters deep. Even if someone fell into it, they would not be injured. Why would they say that then? Is there another secret to this well? Chen Ge was reminded of the door inside the bathroom mirror, the door that would only appear for 1 minute after midnight. He could find no answer. After inspecting everything again, Chen Ge exited the underground car park and sealed the wooden boards. He took out 5,000 from the staff break room before locking the door and heading toward the park management office. When he saw Uncle Shu, he returned his money and asked about the update regarding the people from Qin Guang's studio. Uncle Shu told him that things had been taken care of, and he should not worry about it. After handling all those miscellaneous tasks, Chen Ge walked out of the park and gave Inspector Li a call. It was answered after 3 rings, but the line was quiet except for an extremely tense breathing sound. Uncle Sanbao, what have you discovered this time? It's nothing, I just need your help to find a person. Not a murder suspect. No, just a normal student. After receiving the confirmed answer, the silence on the other end was broken, and footsteps could be heard in the background. People flipped through the documents while others talked on the phone, everyone resumed their work. Inspector Li sighed in relief. I told them that 4 times in 1 week is too much. The stress you give my men. Uncle Sanbao, the person I'm looking for is Chen Yalin. She should be one of the victims from Muyang High School 3 years ago. Victim. You're looking for a dead person. Chapter 103. One survivor. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. Inspector Li lowered his voice, and the tension returned. Explain to me clearly, what is really happening? It's definitely not a murder this time. I just want to take a look at her information. Are you kidding? Do you think we can provide that kind of sensitive information to a citizen? If there's nothing else, I'm going to hang up. After Inspector Li hung up, Chen Ge felt rather hopeless. Just as he was trying to figure out what to do, his phone vibrated. It was a message from Inspector Li. The case files definitely cannot be released to the public, but you can come over at around 7 to 8 p.m., and if your case is serious enough, I can help you take a look at the files. Chen Ge understood it immediately after reading the message. There were probably too many people at the office, and he could not promise him anything with so many eyes and ears around him. Uncle Li, do you have any records on Muyang High School? What happened to force the school to close down? And why are there so many supernatural stories surrounding it? After some time, Inspector Li's reply came. The school was built on top of a crematorium, so the land was very cheap. However, due to the taboo, no one wanted to purchase it. Later, it was purchased by a short and rather rotund old man who had the surname Chen. He built a private orphanage on the site. A few years later, Zhujiang established societal construct related to childcare, and so the old man transported all the age-appropriate children to the government-supported orphanage. This meant that there was a bunch of older kids who were left behind at the orphanage. To solve the education problem for these kids, the old patron visited many schools, but none wanted to accept them. Running out of options, the senior purchased the textbooks and started teaching the children himself. This story was picked up by the local news and thus alerted the relevant government bodies. After some discussion, the orphanage was changed into Muyang High School, and those children adopted by the senior became the school's first batch of students. Before reading the messages, Chen Ge had not expected Muyang High School to have such a complicated history. Inspector Li, can you find out how many students there were in the first batch? Do you have that kind of information? After 20 minutes, Inspector Li called him directly. Xiao Chen, I'm now in the filing room. Most of files related to Muyang High School have been taken away by the city station since the murder case has been solved. Ads by PubFuture. Uncle Shu, I just want to confirm one thing. Among the first batch of student, were there any girls by the name of Chen Yalin and Wang Xin? Let me take a look. Inspector Li flipped through the pages before answering. When Muyang High School was first built, there were 25 students, and they were all originally from the seniors' orphanage. 25. This number was close but not exactly the same as the number of uniforms. Indeed, but, Inspector Li hesitated. There is only one survivor, the girl you mentioned, Wang Xin. The rest of them came into some kind of accident. Unfortunately, initially Chen Yalin was found hanging in the bedroom for unknown reasons, and then other than Wang Xin, who shared the same bedroom with her, the remaining 23 people went on a school trip, but the bus veered off the road and fell into the dam. All of them died, including the driver. 25 people with one survivor. Chen Ge was reminded of the 24 school uniforms, and he slowly understood why the lingering spirits of the 24 students had returned to the classroom. It had a much deeper meaning to them, it was their home. Is there anything else? If not, I have to go back to work. Inspector Li had already done a big favor for Chen Ge. One last question, is there a way for me to contact the child who survived? Chen Ge had confirmed that this Wang Xin was the person that the pen spirit was looking for. Wang Xin was hospitalized due to the trauma of Chen Yalin's incident. Afterwards, I heard that a kind couple adopted her. You can find out more from the adoption website. Since Wang Xin's case is so unique, there should still be records of her. After hanging up, Chen Ge followed Inspector Li's suggestion and logged onto the website. He searched for half an hour before he found Wang Xin's name. The person who had adopted her was a Madame Gu. After clicking on Madame Gu's profile, he realized that she had posted many threads on the forum requesting for help. Chen Ge just wanted to know a bit more about this Madame Gu, but as he studied her threads, his expression changed. Wang Xin seemed to have fallen victim to some kind of psychological illness and Madame Gu had gone about asking for professional help. In the end, it was a doctor with the surname Gao who had come to her aid. This Dr. Gao's resume was printed clearly on his profile: senior psychologist, tenured lecturer at Zhujiang Medical University. Could there really be such a coincidence? Chen Ge hesitated for a moment before giving Gao Rushui's father a call. Ads by PubFuture. Hello, Dr. Gao, I'm Gao Rushui's friend. We discussed a boy's condition last night. Has the boy's condition stabilized? I'm not sure about that, but I'm calling because of another case today. Chen Ge thought about it and decided honesty was the best policy. Have you treated a girl by the name of Wang Xin? Dr. Gao was surprised. How do you know about that? I know the reason behind Wang Xin's psychological problem, and I can save her. Can you please give me her address? You can save her. Dr. Gao denied his demand immediately. I'm sorry, but I cannot give away my patient's information. Dr. Gao, Wang Xin is in very deep pain. As her attending physician, you have to know how much suffering she is in. She must be tormented by fear and nightmares. Can't you give me a chance, please? Dr. Gao was silent for a very long time before sighing. How about this? I will accompany you. We will meet at the gate to Fanghua residential area. Okay, see you there. This was the best result Chen Ge could get. 40 minutes later, Chen Ge finally met Gao Ru Shui's father in person. He was a middle-aged man with a fit physique and plenty of charm. After a simple introduction, Dr. Gao led him to one of the large buildings. Can you really solve Wang Xin's issues? Dr. Gao was most concerned about this. I know the reason to her sickness, so I have 50% confidence that I can solve it. That is more than enough, she's also a special patient. The antidepressants and medicine aren't working so well, but I simply couldn't find any other symptoms in her. The pair rode the elevator until the 14th floor. One of the doors was opened. Dr. Gao had called the patient's family before they arrived. Chapter 104. Give me 1 minute. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. The room was clean and thickly carpeted. The edges of the tables and counters were wrapped in thick cloth. There was a fruit plate on the coffee table but nothing sharp like knife or fork. Dr. Gao, please come in. A woman in a white dress welcomed Dr. Gao and Chen Ge into the room. She looked to be in her 40s and took good care of her appearance. Has Wang Xin's condition improved? I've given her the recommended sleeping pills and antidepressants, but the effect has not been as positive as I hoped. The woman smiled weakly. If anything, her condition hasn't improved, but all the side effects did show themselves: dry heaving, shivering, and shaking hands. She could not even grip the chopsticks during lunch, and the food fell all over the table. Dr. Gao, do you think Wang Xin can still be cured? Believe me, she will get better. The woman then noticed Chen Ge behind the doctor. And this is? My name is Chen Ge. Chen Ge did not want to waste time. Can I please meet your daughter? The woman turned to Dr. Gao to ask for his opinion. I will join him. After Dr. Gao nodded, the woman reluctantly let Chen Ge into the room. The child is in her bedroom. After having 1 spoon of lunch, she started wailing. The woman walked to a door. She knocked lightly on it for quite some time, but there was no response. She placed her hand on the doorknob, twisted, and opened the door a sliver. The woman sighed wordlessly before moving back. Ads by PubFuture. Let's go in. Dr. Gao looked at Chen Ge. Do not say anything to provoke the patient. Before you do anything, please discuss it with me. Okay, Chen Ge promised before he was led into the room. The carpet in the bedroom was even thicker, and the edges of the cupboards and table were all sanded off. There was not anything sharp in sight, even the windows were installed with anti-theft netting. There was not a bed in the room. Instead, there were 2 thick mattresses placed together. All of the decorations were white, and there were no personal effects. Dr. Gao moved to the side, and Chen Ge finally saw the woman he was looking for. A slender girl was lying on the mattress. The white shirt with a round collar barely covered up her frame, her skin was white to the point it looked translucent, and she appeared fragile, like too violent a movement would cause her body to snap. Realizing that she had guests, the girl slowly sat up in bed. While Chen Ge expected a raging mental patient, the girl was surprisingly normal, if a little reticent. Dr. Gao squatted down beside the mattress to maintain a level eye contact with the girl and asked kindly, Wang Xin, does your head still hurt? The girl shook her head and took a glance at Chen Ge before putting her head down. Then, have you been sleeping? Dr. Gao asked, but this time, the reaction elicited was much more intense. She reached out to grab at her own hair, and when she released, there were strands of black hairs stuck between her fingers. That was how strong she was as she yanked her hairs out. Still can't sleep, huh? Standing up, the brows of the good doctor were deeply furrowed. Neither of the medicines had an effect. Dr. Gao, may I speak to her? Wang Xin's current condition is considered stable, so go ahead. Chen Ge mimicked Dr. Gao and squatted down. The girl probably assumed he was also a doctor, so she did not show much resistance. She merely pulled her sleeves down to cover the red welts on her arms, which felt like they were the result of her own rabid scratching. The girl before him was frail. She gave the impression of a paper kite, like a single thread was everything that connected her to survival. A single mistake, and she would be lost among the dark clouds before being torn apart by the storm. Wang Xin. Chen Ge pulled out the ballpoint pen from his pocket. Your friend wants to talk to you, so I brought her with me. Wang Xin glanced at the ballpoint pen but did not show any special emotion. She probably wanted to smile at Chen Ge's attempt at a joke but found herself unable to do even that. Dr. Gao beside him and the woman who was eavesdropping at the door were confused, they did not understand what Chen Ge was up to. Chen Ge was not discouraged by Wang Xin's lack of reaction. He retrieved a piece of white paper from the desk and placed it on the mattress. He hovered the pen above it and prepared to start the pen spirit game. Ads by PubFuture. Chen Ge was facing away from Dr. Gao and facing Wang Xin. He moved his lips but made no sound as he mouthed the incantation to invoke the pen spirit. Pen spirit, you are my. As his lips opened and closed, Wang Xin's focus was slowly attracted to Chen Ge. She turned to look at Chen Ge fully and reading the words on Chen Ge's lips, she flailed her arms around and shrunk back into the walls like she was reminded of something horrible. What are you doing in Terabang? The woman dashed into the room to stop Chen Ge alongside Dr. Gao. I'm helping her solve the issue in her heart. Chen Ge shielded the ballpoint pen in his hand. No one knew what happened to Wang Xin, but that is the source of her illness. Just give me 1 minute, I only need 1 minute. His conviction was firm as he squatted beside the mattress with the pen in his palm. Initially, Chen Ge merely wanted to finish the pen spirit's mission, but when he saw how tortured the girl was, he felt the need to do something. Why don't we give him a chance? After a long confrontation, Dr. Gao chose to trust Chen Ge. During my sessions with Wang Xin, she has never shown this kind of reaction before. Perhaps this is a good sign. Dr. Gao eventually convinced the woman, and they agreed to give Chen Ge 3 minutes. The two walked to the door, and Chen Ge stood up to close the curtains in the door. Wang Xin, your friend has been trying to reach you. He placed the pen above the paper again and continued to chant. Pen spirit, you are my spirit from my previous life, and I am your spirit in this life. As Chen Ge continued to mumble, the girl hiding in the corner started to get increasingly feared. The nightmare-like memory that had haunted her for years started to appear in her heart. As cruel as it was, Chen Ge forced himself to continue. Not long after that, the pen hovering over the paper started to move on its own. Then, beautiful handwriting appeared on the white paper, handwriting that was different from Chen Ge's own. Wang Xin, I really didn't expect that a mindless joke would create such a lasting wound in your heart. You must hate me very much, right? Wang Xin was stunned when she saw the familiar handwriting. At that moment, her mind was blank, she also did not know what to think anymore. You have nothing to do with my death. I merely wanted to scare you when I saw you coming with another friend. Who would have thought the rope would be too tight and the chair would slip? You did nothing wrong, it was a silly prank gone very wrong. I'm so sorry, Wang Xin. I don't ask that you could forgive me, but I hope that you can remove the bad memories from your mind and strive to live the best life on behalf of the rest of us. Chapter 105. Second Haunted House Worker. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. Looking at the series of words on the white paper, Wang Xin's emotions got increasingly amped up. She leaned forward slowly and actively reached out for the ballpoint pen in Chen Ge's hand. The cold fingers slid between Chen Ge's hand and the pen, and her arm kept shaking like she had experienced the body temperature from another human in the first time. She wanted to say something, but she had lost her voice. The 3 minutes soon ended, and the ballpoint pen started to move between them, but this time, only 2 words were written. Good night. The pen stopped moving, and Chen Ge started to chant the incantation to send the pen spirit away. Opposite him, Wang Xin followed him as if involuntarily. Pen spirit, you are my spirit from my previous life, and I am your spirit in this life. If you wish to go, then please go ahead. When both of them finished the last word, the dam holding in Wang Xin's emotions broke, and the needle that had been stuck in her heart for so long finally fell out. She gripped Chen Ge's hands, and she turned her face to the side as if unwilling to let others see the pain that she was in. The lights of the world have been extinguished, and everyone has gone silent. What am I to do all alone? Every feeling is wrong, and every road leads to a dead end. I don't understand what I have done wrong, but I seem to have turned into a monster. Wang Xin finally uttered the words that had been kept in her heart. She looked at the words on the paper before leaning down on the table, and her voice dwindled. Help me, drag me out from this world. I want release from this pain, help me. Her forehead was pressed against the back of Chen Ge's hands, and her body lay down on the mattress. When her breathing stabilized, it seemed like Wang Xin had finally fallen asleep. Good night. Chen Ge pulled his hand lightly away and placed a quilt over Wang Xin before leaving the room. Both Dr. Gao and Wang Xin's adopted mother were waiting outside the door. They wanted to know what had happened inside, but afraid of disturbing Wang Xin, they kept their inquiries in a soft voice. Ads by PubFuture. How is Wang Xin? Chen Ge pointed inside the room. Already asleep. She's really asleep. Dr. Gao breathed in disbelief. He understood how difficult it was for patients with severe trauma to fall asleep. Normally, they would have to rely on medication. How did you do it? It's a long story. Chen Ge gave an explanation that was half true. When I was looking for inspiration for my haunted house at Muyang High School, I accidentally stumbled across some information related to Wang Xin's past and uncovered the reason for her depression. It appears like a scar was left in her mind after witnessing her friend's death while playing a game of pen spirit. Therefore, I used that as an opening. I simulated the pen spirit game she once played with her roommates and used that to tell her that it wasn't her fault, it was all just an accident. And it worked. Dr. Gao was impressed. The eyes of the middle-aged woman behind him were already wet. Thank you, I shouldn't have doubted you earlier, I'm sorry. It's fine. If anything, both you and Dr. Gao have done more than I did. Neither of you gave up on Wang Xin when she needed it the most, and that is the most important thing. Chen Ge praised both to the moon and back, improving their impression of Chen Ge. Wang Xin's adopted mother wanted to ask them to stay for lunch, but Chen Ge rejected it. When Wang Xin had fallen asleep earlier, the black phone had vibrated twice. He was in a hurry to look at its message. After exiting Fanghua, Chen Ge bade Dr. Gao farewell before getting on a bus to return to New Century Park. He sat on the back row, and after making sure no one was paying him any attention, he pulled out the black phone. Congratulations on completing 2-star scenario Muyang High School's hidden mission, the Pen Spirit's Wish. Activating the next part of the hidden mission. Create mannequins for the 24 spirits to possess. Successfully completed the Pen Spirit's Wish. Even though she still cannot see you, she is appreciative of your help. Would you like to employ the Pen Spirit as a member of the haunted house? Chen Ge clicked. Yes, without reservation. Hadn't he been waiting for this moment for a long time? Specters favored. Congratulations on hiring a special type baleful specter, the Pen Spirit. Ads by PubFuture. Chen Yalin Pen Spirit, a fortune-telling opportunity daily, all questions must be within the Pen Spirit's power. The rate of a successful reading is 50%. Note: the Pen Spirit feeds on the visitor's frightful screams. The visitor's fear will improve the Pen Spirit's power, but if you keep the Pen Spirits isolated and depressed, she might decide to leave you. Chen Ge read the Pen Spirit's information again and again. He was quite excited. He had finally hired his first supernatural employee. This meant that his previous dream could be realized. He could create a theme park that he could operate on his own. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I'm sure more ghosts will join my team in the future. Chen Ge was very satisfied with the Pen Spirit. She could handle a small scenario all on her own, and her special talent could be incredibly useful. Chen Ge saw the next section of Muyang High School's hidden mission, to build mannequins for the lingering spirits of the sealed classroom to possess. Even without the mission from the black phone, Chen Ge would have done that eventually. The phone call with Inspector Li had made Chen Ge understand why the 24 students had returned to the classroom. They were orphans, and Muyang High School was their home. With the unlocking of the new scenario, they had moved into Chen Ge's haunted house, not unlike Xiaoxiao's family. As I complete more trial missions, the underground scenario will only get bigger. I will need the help of these 24 lingering spirits to manage the sets. We both need the other. Chen Ge's plan was nice, but he needed to get the goodwill of the 24 spirits first. The first thing Chen Ge did after returning to his haunted house was sleep. He was truly exhausted by the events of the day. After being asleep for who knew how long, Chen Ge felt something crawling on his chest, like a kitten asking for attention. He opened his eyes blurrily and discovered he was hugging a small doll. Xiaoxiao. He rubbed his eyes and placed Xiaoxiao beside him. What's going on? You have a grown man like myself hugging a doll when he sleeps. Just imagine the impression it'll leave on my future wife if she sees me like this. After stretching lazily, Chen Ge glanced at the time. It was 11:59 p.m. Chen Ge put on his shoes and exited the staff break room to head for the first floor bathroom. He merely had to pee, but as he entered the place, he discovered that the atmosphere inside the bathroom was not right. The door of the cubicle was swaying lightly, and a red hue could be seen coming from the mirror underneath the black cloth. Has the door in the mirror returned? He walked to the mirror and lifted up a corner of the black cloth. In the mirror that had cracked, the red door was half open. Chapter 106. The Sound Behind the Door. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. Chen Ge's hand froze in midair. The creepiest thing was that the door in the mirror was open at the exact same angle as in real life. Chen Ge removed the black cloth and walked to the cubicle. He turned to look at the mirror while he reached out to push the door open completely. There was nothing inside the cubicle in reality, but it was different in the mirror. The narrow cubicle was painted red, like blood was seeping out from the ceiling, walls, and floor. It was a different world. Chen Ge still did not have the courage to step into the cubicle. Holding the door knob, he wondered if he should just have the cubicle destroyed. About 10 seconds later, Chen Ge heard a weird sound that seemed very close but also far away. It felt like someone wearing wet clothes was crawling on the floor. Where is that coming from? The sound became clearer, as if it was getting close to Chen Ge. He walked out of the bathroom to peer down the corridor and then turned to look at the mirror. Finally, he confirmed that the sound was coming from inside the cubicle. Something is coming. Chen Ge knew that it was not the time to be curious. He yanked the cubicle door shut and used the nearby mop to block it before turning to look at the mirror. The sound of something heavy being dragged entered the cubicle, and soon, a pool of red bled out from underneath the door. The other thing felt like it was looking for something, and the air was heavy with the smell of blood. After several seconds, the sound moved away, and the unique smell dissipated. With his back against the wall, Chen Ge's palms were very sweaty. If he had not woken up, the thing that was crawling on the ground would have escaped, just like the mirror monster. Even with the black cloth over the mirror, the blood-red door still appears on time. Chen Ge was clueless about the world behind the cubicle door, so the only thing he could do was forget about it for now. After splashing his face with cold water, Chen Ge returned to the staff break room. When he opened the door, he realized that Xiao Xiao had disappeared again. Did she come earlier to remind me? Chen Ge sat on the side of his bed. Since he could not sleep, he took out the black phone. After he swiped on the screen, he clicked on the tab for the daily missions. Ads by PubFuture. Easy mission. A normal haunted house experience should not create permanent trauma to its visitors. I hope you understand this simple theory. Please improve the haunted house's security by inspecting the security threats hidden around the haunted house. Normal mission. A single hand cannot clap. A good haunted house needs a good management team. Recruit more talents. They will definitely help when the situation demands it. Nightmare mission. There has always been a second occupant inside your room. Wouldn't you like to meet said person? Chen Ge was familiar with the newly updated daily missions. He had seen them before. The easy and normal missions are things that I should be doing at the current stage, more help around the place and improved security. However, in comparison, the reward of the nightmare mission is far more alluring. Without risk, there would be no reward, but the key thing was, after hiring the pen spirit, he had a fortune-telling chance every day. The way Chen Ge saw it, using it on the nightmare mission was the best use of the pen spirit's power. Holding the ballpoint pen that was taped together, Chen Ge felt embarrassed. When there's a chance, I should ask her if she wants to move to a newer pen. He grabbed a random piece of paper and placed it on the table. After invoking the pen spirit, Chen Ge asked the question that was bothering him. Can I finish the latest nightmare mission on the black phone safely? After that, Chen Ge looked at the paper for a long time. The pen shook, but there was no answer. As the question that difficult, Chen Ge realized the pen spirit was not as powerful as he had thought. She could not answer anything related to the black phone. Looking at the ballpoint pen that had started to break, Chen Ge quickly changed his question. That question doesn't count. I want to know, has there been another person living in this room? The ballpoint pen hovered for a long time before writing, yes. Then, do you know what he looks like? This time, the pen spirit did not answer. The ballpoint pen in his palm had returned to normal. Chen Ge did not blame the pen spirit, since fortune-telling was probably extremely exhausting for the pen spirit, which was probably why the limitation of one per day was in place. So, there is another person living here. How have I not noticed all this time? Based on the mission introduction, the person is another friend from the other side. There were quite a few supernatural tenants living in Chen Ge's haunted house. He did not mind any more weird spirits as long as it did not actively harm his business like the mirror ghost. Ads by PubFuture. After some hesitation, Chen Ge chose to accept the nightmare mission. Are you sure you want to accept the nightmare mission? Unforeseeable consequences might occur. Yes. The screen flickered, and a new message appeared. It stays in the same room as you. After you fall asleep, it will appear. If it is kind, it will wash away the negative energy and keep the household safe and healthy. If it is malicious, when you are asleep, it will stand beside your bed, thinking about how to ruin you. The game is called The Invisible Customer. At midnight, spread soaked uncooked rice around the house, place a pair of worn slippers outside the door, and light a white candle on the bedroom floor. Arrange the bed in such a way that it looks like someone is really asleep in bed. You will lie underneath the bed. For the mission to work, you have to really fall asleep. If you manage to catch a glimpse of its face, then mission will be successful. This mission will be your third nightmare mission. After completing the mission, you will randomly get a scenario's trial mission. Warning. After completing the third nightmare mission, the nightmare missions given for daily mission will be randomized, so please treat each nightmare mission carefully. Chen Ge memorized all the mission details quickly. Why must I fall asleep for the mission? How will I take a look at the person's face if I'm asleep? In my dreams, Chen Ge did not understand the meaning of this mission, but since he had accepted it, he could only follow the instructions. After putting on his jacket, Chen Ge once more visited the park canteen late at night to borrow half a bowl of white rice. The haunted house is so big, it'll be such a waste if I have to cover every floor. Chen Ge soaked the rice in cold water and spread it around the few rooms on the first floor. Then he placed a pair of slippers at the corridor entrance and lit a white candle beside his bed. Chapter 107, Invisible Customer. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. After that, Chen Ge found the doll that had been left behind by his parents and the Dr. Skullcracker's hammer and placed them beside his bed. Now, everything is ready. After switching off the light, Chen Ge attached his phone to the charger and left it on the bedside table to record. He then crawled underneath the bed with the scary-looking hammer. The flickering candlelight caused the brightness inside the room to fluctuate. Once Chen Ge closed his eyes, his brain was immediately filled with many scary thoughts. He could not control it. He kept his attention on his surrounding as he curled into the fetal position, the top of his head touching the corner of the bed. From his vantage point, he could see the slippers in the corridor through the half-open door. The slippers are where they were, and the white rice has remained unmoved. I wonder why the black phone asked me to prepare these things. The candle burned shorter, and Chen Ge's eyelids grew heavier. Night spread through the haunted house, and Chen Ge, who had not really rested for the past few days, held on for a little longer before drifting off to sleep. His lower calf was a bit cold. Chen Ge opened his eyes blurrily. The candle had gone out, and the room was dark and quiet. What time is it? Chen Ge wanted to glance at his watch, but he realized he could not move. Sleep paralysis. 1. After widening his eyes, Chen Ge did not make too much resistance. He focused on adjusting his breathing. Respiratory organs like lungs were not affected by sleep paralysis. Then, he focused his energy on trying to bend his finger. Throughout the process, he did not look elsewhere but on his finger. After all, even if there was something scary, he would have been unable to move. It would only add to his fear and cause him to lose his cool. Ads by PubFuture. After 3 minutes, Chen Ge could finally move his pinky. This was a good start. He tried to move on to the next stage, but as his eyes swept past the open door, a question bubbled up in his mind. When I placed the slippers earlier, did the head of slippers face inward or outward? Since he would need to wear the slippers when going out, the slippers should have been facing outward, but the slippers that Chen Ge saw were pointing into his bedroom. Did I misplace them earlier? A bad feeling settled in his stomach, and he tried his best to move his other fingers. The candle in the room had long been extinguished. There was a shuffling sound like someone was moving the rice that was placed around the floor. Under Chen Ge's scrutiny, one of the slippers moved forward. It was an awkward movement, like someone learning how to walk for the first time. It moved. The more anxious Chen Ge became, the slower he progressed. After making the first step, the slippers placed on the corridor suddenly moved forward several steps like someone was putting them on. The invisible customer is already here. Why can't I see him? Just as Chen Ge was thinking, the pair of slippers had reached the door to the main control room. It suddenly stopped, and then the door to the control room fell open on its own before soon closing. The windows inside the haunted house were shut, so it could not have been the wind. What is it looking for? The pair of slippers moved up and down the dark corridor before it stopped at the door to the dressing room. From Chen Ge's angle, He could see that the black cloth over the mirror in the dressing room had been taken down, and the skin mask made from multiple faces swayed before the mirror. Chen Ge was alarmed watching this. He tried to move his fingers, but at that moment, the moving skin mask suddenly stopped, and the hollow behind the pair of eyes seemed to be staring at Chen Ge's hiding place. I've been discovered. The mask fell to the floor, and the door to the dressing room was closed. The pair of slippers stopped in front of the door before it turned toward Chen Ge and headed quick for the staff break room. Ads by PubFuture. Hiding under the bed with his body immobile, Chen Ge could only watch as the pair of slippers moved closer to him. The door to the break room was pushed open further, and the pair of slippers stopped beside the bed. Chen Ge closed his eyes and pretended that he was asleep. He could feel a cold draft on his face and a light breathing beside his ear, as if a face was looking closely down at him. The monster is checking whether I'm really asleep or not. Chen Ge did not dare open his eyes. He was afraid of seeing something that might make him lose control. His movement was stopped, so the best solution then was to pretend to be asleep. Several seconds later, the chilling breathing sound disappeared. Chen Ge pushed his eyes open a sliver. There was nothing before him. He moved his eyes around and saw that the pair of slippers was placed beside the bed. However, the direction was different from before, now they were facing out. It has jumped onto my bed. Just the thought of it made Chen Ge shiver. Every time he had been asleep, this thing had been wandering about the house. If the person had malicious intentions, the consequences would have been unbearable. The slippers remained unmoved for a long time. The monster was likely lying in his bed. Chen Ge realized that his chance had arrived. He directed all his energy to the one finger he could move. His pupils darted about and tried to unfreeze the rest of the body from immobility. Completing the nightmare mission was no longer that important, the feeling that his body was out of his control was horrible. After completing so many of the Black Phone's missions, Chen Ge's focus and concentration were better than most. After some time, the rest of his fingers could all move. Curling his palm into a fist, his control of his arm also slowly returned. Just a little more, a little bit more. The muscles on his arms bulged. Chen Ge had a feeling that he could wake up soon. His breathing smoothed out, and he could now turn his neck slightly. If only his legs could move, then he would have regained full control of his body. With the hammer in hand, he would be less defenseless. However, his lower body was completely unresponsive. He nudged his body, trying to turn onto his side. His heartbeat reverberated in his ears. Using every ounce of energy in his body, he finally managed to turn his body toward the wall. In that instant, he felt the shackles on his body unlock. Chen Ge gained full control of his body back, but as he turned to look behind him, his skin became covered in goosebumps. There was a girl lying behind him. The monster didn't get onto the bed. It has been behind me all along. Chen Ge involuntarily reached for the hammer beside him, and the girl lying behind him also realized that Chen Ge had woken up from the sleep paralysis. Her reaction was one beat slower. She raised her head to share a look with Chen Ge before morphing into a shadow in a hurry and rushing out of the room. Chen Ge grabbed the hammer and chased after her. When he saw the girl's face, he had felt that she looked weirdly familiar. Chapter 108, The Secret of the Third Sick Hall. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. I must have seen her somewhere before. It was not that Chen Ge had that much confidence in his memory, but the girl's face was memorable. His mind drew a blank as he chased after the girl after picking up his phone and the iron hammer. The rice on the floor turned into a mess. By the time Chen Ge exited the staff break room, the shadow had already disappeared. Where did she disappear to? The front door is closed, so she should still be inside the haunted house. Turning on the flashlight, Chen Ge noticed that the white rice formed a trail. He followed said trail to the deepest part of the first floor corridor. The wooden boards that blocked the entrance were lifted up, and a wind could be heard blowing underneath. Chen Ge moved the boards to the side and entered the Muyang High School scenario. There was rice left on the stairs, proof that the girl had entered the same scenario. Her escape route is clear, she ran this way. The scenario was huge, but the rice on the floor helped Chen Ge navigate the place. The scenario was underground, but it had not changed from the layout of the parking lot. The trail of white rice eventually disappeared beside a bearing beam. She has hidden herself inside the beam. The bearing beam was right underneath the haunted house, supporting the whole haunted house's weight. Patting the beam, Chen Ge was reminded of a story that he had once heard from his grandparents. Apparently, there was a spirit living inside every home, and while most of them were kind spirits, there were exceptions. Ads by PubFuture. A kind spirit protected the house and the residents in it, a malicious spirit would ruin the family's feng shui. Normally, such spirits were the ancestors who had passed away, but there were exceptions, like the place Fan Yu and his aunt called home. This fitted the description provided by the black phone. There was an invisible customer at the haunted house, and it might be friendly or malicious. The girl hiding behind me earlier, could it be the spirit that protects the haunted house? The more he thought about it, the more convinced Chen Ge became. He walked around the beam and realized that there was a doll that had been left leaning against it. This doll was the first doll that he had made. Wait, aren't you supposed to be in my pocket? Chen Ge's hands wandered to his pocket, and the doll was not there. Are you the person who has been living at the haunted house with me? Chen Ge bent down to pick up the doll, and when he did, he saw that the doll was covering a relatively small hole underneath it. He shone his flashlight into the hole. The space that could only fit 4 fingers had a bracelet and a paper crane inside. Neither was expensive. The bracelet was made of plastic, and it looked like a little girl's toy. The paper crane that was stuffed underneath it had become out of shape. After pulling the items out, Chen Ge saw 3 curvy words at the end of the bracelet, Luo Ruyu. Why would there be a girl's toy inside the underground parking lot? Chen Ge studied the bracelet closer. If this bracelet belongs to that shadow, then this should be the girl's name. Surname Luo, the guardian spirit of the haunted house, a girl's toy. After connecting the clues, it hit Chen Ge. He finally remembered where he had seen the girl's face. That girl is New Century Park director Luo's daughter. When he visited Director Luo to discuss the possibility of renting the underground parking lot, he had seen the girl's photo. She was physically disabled but had the purest of smile. The girl has become the guardian spirit for the whole park. Then why would she attach herself to the doll left behind by my parents? Chen Ge felt like there was a hidden meaning to this nightmare mission. He took the doll, bracelet, and paper crane back to the staff break room. He pulled out an album from a locked drawer. The first page featured a family photo of Chen Ge and his parents. Since the picture had been taken on the day that the construction of the haunted house had finished, the background of the picture was the haunted house. In the picture, Chen Ge's father stood proudly in the middle. He was as happy as a child. Chen Ge, who had still been attending school then, stood quietly to the side, looking at the camera with a trace of impatience on his face. His mother stood beside his father, but as he looked closer, his mother's hand was hanging in midair, and her fingers were curved like they were holding someone's hand. Ads by PubFuture. There are 4 people in the picture. Flipping through the album, Chen Ge found another picture that was weirder. His father was pointing at the haunted house, talking to Chen Ge, while his mother half squatted on the floor, her hands touching something in the air. There were many other similar pictures, and looking at them, Chen Ge felt his heart chill. Ever since he was young, he had wondered why he had to leave a huge space during picture time. Now he understood it. They sure were nice to the ghosts. It is probably because of them that I'm favored by the specters. Chen Ge did not expect Director Luo's daughter to have attached herself to the doll left behind by his parents, and from the looks of it, she had stayed with them for a long time already. Director Luo's daughter was the guardian spirit of the park, so she could not leave the park. This explained why the doll was only useful inside the haunted house in the park. It was why, when Wang Qi tried to ambush Chen Ge at the wooden hut behind Ping'an Apartments, the doll had not reacted. There were many other such occasions as well. Chen Ge closed the album and lightly rubbed his temple. He had a feeling that the mission was more than it seemed. He moved his gaze away from the doll and the bracelet to fall on the paper crane. The material was normal, but it was dirtied by a blood stain. This paper crane does not look new, it should have been inside that hole for a long time already. Opening the paper crane, several words could be seen written on the bloodied paper, the 3rd room of the 3rd sick hall. The 3rd sick hall. Chen Ge's heart started to quiver when he saw those words. After completing 3 nightmare missions, one of the trial missions would be unlocked. Before this, Chen Ge had already prepared to select the trial mission for the 3rd sick hall because it was the only 3-star mission carried by the black phone. The handwriting looks similar to my parents, but why would they leave behind a clue to a location? Is the 3rd room in the 3rd sick hall related to their disappearance? Chen Ge put the paper aside, and his brain was mulling on another problem. The black phone said that after completing the 3 nightmare missions, the missions in the future will be randomized. This means that the first 3 nightmare missions are fixed. The first mission opened the door to the other world, the second mission told me my parents are still alive but missing, this 3rd mission gave me a venue. Buying my trust, giving me hope, and then providing me with an investigative direction. The 3 nightmare missions are related to each other, and they are more meaningful than they appear. Chapter 109, Second Special Visitor. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. The 3 nightmare missions were like the new player missions given in such games. They had certain risks, but they also helped new players familiarize themselves with the game. Looks like only after completing the first 3 nightmare missions can one be considered a real player. Chen Ge held the bloodied paper in his hand, and he discovered that his emotions were still raging. Every single mission so far had been a real threat, but until now, he had been in the kiddie pool, so just how difficult would the later missions be? After putting away the note with the hint, Chen Ge slowly resigned himself to his fate. The most difficult missions so far had been the 2 trial missions. The most dangerous presence at Ping'an Apartments was the people. Muyang High School was creepy, but the lingering spirits inside it had meant no harm. Therefore, technically speaking, the missions were not that dangerous. Looks like from 3-star scenarios onwards, the situation will be different. I'll probably encounter malicious specters then. In any case, Chen Ge could only power forward. This paper had probably been left behind by his parents, so no matter what, he had to pay the location a visit. Chen Ge then pulled out the black phone. When he saw the girl's face, the nightmare mission had been completed. Specters favored, congratulations for completing the nightmare mission, obtained reward, elementary skill, dollmaker's talent. Utilizing real humans as your model, carve, cut, join, and shine each bone, paint the skin, sew up the wounds, and pair it with a flawless face. Provide it to a homeless spirit, and you will have created your first living doll. That mission was your 3rd nightmare mission. After completing the mission, you were rewarded with a randomized scenarios trial mission. Would you like to draw the trial mission now? Warning. After completing the 3rd nightmare mission, the nightmare missions given for daily missions will be randomized, so please treat each nightmare mission carefully. Ads by PubFuture. Similar to when he obtained the mortician's makeup skill, some new memories and techniques appeared in Chen Ge's mind. Other than that, there was no visible change. Dolls and mannequins are integral parts of a haunted house. This skill will be incredibly helpful for the management of a haunted house. It's just a coincidence that there are 24 lingering spirits in Muyang High School that need them. I can use them to test out this skill. Chen Ge had skipped over whether the spirits would like to live his dolls or not. After finishing the dolls and pushing the spirits into them, it will most likely complete Muyang High School's hidden mission. There were not enough mannequins in the Night of the Living Dead scenario, and his haunted house did not possess the facilities to mass produce a bunch of mannequins. Tomorrow morning, I should go around to look for a workshop that can help me produce mannequins. Hopefully, the price won't be too exorbitant. Chen Ge continued to look through the black phone. He was hesitating over whether he should draw the trial mission or not. In the end, he did not think that he was ready to take on a 3-star trial mission. After dealing with all that, Chen Ge reached for his phone, ended the video, and cut the part where the slippers entered the room on their own and stopped beside his bed. Whenever I fell asleep, the slippers walked to the bed on their own. After giving it a random name, Chen Ge uploaded this video that was only 11 seconds long to the app. Despite its length, the effect was much better than the bathtub video. In less than several minutes, it had over more than 100 views and 50 shares. The comments section, which had been quiet for so long, started to get rambunctious again. Small and weak. Your video is similar to your. Wait, can someone tell me why the slippers can move on their own? Have you photoshopped yourself out of the video? Am I mistaken? Or is there someone hiding under the bed? I see it, too. But there appears to be 2 of them. FCK, what in heaven's name is this interrobang? Whenever Chen Ge released a video, his number of followers would increase. After reading the comments for another 2 minutes, he logged out of his account and went back to sleep. When Chen Ge woke up the next morning, he cleared the white rice away and cleaned the haunted house before waiting for the park to open. The lack of employees is a problem. If only the pen spirit could help me sell tickets. Chen Ge started to plan internally. The Minghan scenario allowed a maximum capacity of 3 visitors at a time, but Murder by Midnight and Muyang High School were different. For Murder by Midnight, the more the visitors, the more exciting it would be. Muyang High School covered a large space, and even if 8 people entered it at the same time, as long as he handled the rhythm well, scaring them dumb was still possible. Ads by PubFuture. After completing Muyang High School's hidden mission, I should have Shu Wan manage the Murder by Midnight scenario, and I'll enter the Muyang High School scenario. That way, two scenarios can operate at the same time. After making the plan, Chen Ge went online to look for a mannequin workshop near Western Zhejiang, and he was pleased to discover that there was one close to New Century Park. In fact, the place's main customer had once been New Century Park. This meant that the deterioration of the park had brought about the place's demise as well. It seemed that the owner was about to let the place go. The park opened punctually at 9 a.m. The number of overall visitors was dwindling, but the line before the haunted house was increasing. Before, it was Chen Ge holding the stack of flyers in his hands, watching on with envy as the visitors walked past his haunted house. Even the line for the merry-go-round used to be longer than the line for his haunted house, but now the situation had flipped. Please stay patiently in line. Every scenario costs 20. For those of you who want to experience a different scenario after the first one, please return to the back to the line. Chen Ge had Shu Wan enter the haunted house to prepare while he stayed outside to maintain order. When he was selling tickets, the black phone suddenly vibrated. The day has just started, and there's already a message. Chen Ge stood where he was and pulled out the phone. The midnight ticket counter's effect has been triggered. A special visitor has appeared. Please make use of this opportunity, the results will be different based on your choices. Another trigger. Chen Ge was dazed for a moment before his eyes swept over the line of visitors. Who could this special visitor be? Chen Ge's eyes widened when his gaze reached the end of the line. The person saw him as well because he waved at Chen Ge. Dr. Gao. Chen Ge sent two visitors into the Minghan scenario before he walked over to Dr. Gao and studied the man closely. Why are you here? To find you, of course. Dr. Gao was in a suit, so he did not look like a typical park visitor. I knew that you are no longer a student, but I'm surprised you own a haunted house. It's a family business. Chen Ge pocketed his black phone and said, then, how can I help you? It's like this, I have stumbled across a unique patient. His situation is similar to the boy you once told me about, so I wish to ask you some questions. Chapter 110. The Same Dream. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. Same condition as the boy. He also likes to visit haunted houses. Dr. Gao had managed to pique Chen Ge's curiosity. Low-spirited with occasional outbursts. Prefers to be alone in dark places because it gives him a sense of security. Whether he likes to visit haunted houses or not, I'm not so sure. Dr. Gao moved to the side to reveal the young man behind him. Men Nan, my student, he came to me with his illness about 3 weeks ago. The person behind Dr. Gao was in his 20s, slight of frame, had a tense face, high cheekbones, and dark circles around his eyes. Standing under the sun, tiny droplets of sweat seeped out of his forehead. The young man seemed to be in a tense state, with his head lowered, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Surname Men. Chen Ge tried to make conversation. That's rare, nice to meet you. The young man's reaction was weird. He kept his head lowered, and his eyes scanned Chen Ge quickly before softly replying, nice to meet you. After examining the young man for some time, Chen Ge pulled Dr. Gao to the side. But, Dr. Gao, why did you bring him here? If you plan to let him visit the haunted house, I'm not responsible if anything happens to him. Men Nan was a cheerful, confident child, one of my brightest students. He is incredibly talented in the field of personality psychology. Personality psychology, one of the branches of psychology. Generally speaking, it is the science of understanding human behavior. Ads by PubFuture. Okay. Chen Ge nodded even though he still did not quite get it. His symptoms appeared 3 weeks ago without any warning. There is usually a trigger to psychological illnesses, mostly related to one's family or living environment. However, Men Nan lives alone, and his environment has not undergone any changes recently, so I'm stumped, Dr. Gao whispered, obviously trying to not let Men Nan hear him. After many sessions, his condition has not improved. If anything, it is deteriorating. The young man has always been a patient fellow, but recently, he has been experiencing violent mood swings. He got into a scuffle recently with a classmate simply because the animal patterns on the curtain did not match, and he injured a random stranger simply because the number of sesame seeds on the bun kept changing whenever he counted them. The reasons for his anger sure are unique. Whenever one is under the torment of psychological pressure, even the smallest provocation can lead to an explosion of emotions. Men Nan's actions made me realize he was in deep pain. But why would you bring him to me? Chen Ge looked at Dr. Gao and Men Nan. The special visitor was probably one of them. Wang Xin's illness has improved greatly. Her symptoms that were deteriorating improved after meeting you, Dr. Gao said with a smile. I'm not a stubborn person. No matter the method, as long as it can cure the patient, it is a good method. I am deeply disturbed by the pain he is in, so I wish for you to lend me a hand. Go on then. Chen Ge did not reject Dr. Gao. Can you repeat what you did for Wang Xin on Men Nan? After all, from what we know so far, Men Nan, Wang Xin, and the boy we discussed about before all suffer from the same illness. Chen Ge hesitated after hearing Dr. Gao's words. He did not expect that would be the reason behind the doctor's visit. What he had done for Wang Xin had probably greatly impressed the senior psychologist, and that was why he had come up with this request. However, Chen Ge knew the truth. The only reason Chen Ge could help Wang Xin was because he knew the past from the Pen Spirit, and the Pen Spirit herself had come to assist Wang Xin. The method could not be copied, it was specific to the case. Is it going to be a problem for you? Dr. Gao saw the hesitation on Chen Ge's face. If it's too much trouble, then forget I ever ask. After all, I'm just hoping for the best here. This child has immense talent, but if I put him under medication, it will cause great side effects on his body and mind. I'm afraid it will ruin his future. It's difficult but not impossible. If you want me to help, at least let me know a little bit more about him. Chen Ge did not reject directly. One of them was the special visitor, and every special visitor was a hidden treasure who he must not let go easily. Ads by PubFuture. Then I will thank you in advance on behalf of the child. The smile returned to Dr. Gao's face as he called Men Nan over. Men Nan, come and tell us what has been bothering you. The young man kept his head lowered. No matter who he was talking to, his head remained in that posture, like someone was pressing him down on his skull. Noting the young man's silence, Dr. Gao sighed before filling in for him. 3 weeks ago, he suddenly came to see me, saying he suspected that he was suffering from depression. We're professionals ourselves, and after an afternoon of diagnosis, I discovered that his symptoms were different from normal depression. At most, he was feeling overly agitated and tired. At the time, I did not think too much of it, but his situation worsened. He would spend the whole day not saying a single word and get into altercations with the slightest provocation. I analyzed it for a long time before coming to a conclusion that he would not admit. He is afraid, very afraid of something that is hidden inside his heart. I suspect that he is suffering from a fear complex, but when I examine his surroundings, I cannot find anything that could cause fear. After I asked him again and again, he finally admitted the truth. Dr. Gao looked at Men Nan with concern in his eyes. Starting 3 weeks ago, he has been having the same dream every night. The mention of the dream made Men Nan shudder. This was something he was afraid of facing the most. What kind of dream? Chen Ge had imagined many scary scenarios, but Dr. Gao's answer surprised him. He dreamed about washing his hair. Washing his hair. Chen Ge did not know what to say. I'll let him fill you in on the rest. Dr. Gao placed his hand on Men Nan's shoulder and nudged him slightly, probably to make him relax. After a long time, Men Nan opened his lips. It is the same dream every time, and it is becoming clearer and clearer. Soon, I'll be able to see the person's face. His voice sounded raw, like his throat had been burned. Who is this person? There's another person in your dream. Yes, he always appears beside me to watch me wash my hair. He looks scary and dangerous, as if the moment I close my eyes, he will rush over to strangle me.